It's the 17th day of our Heritage Month series here at GBC. My name is Micheline Taka. You're most welcome. This is News Hour. We are also live on GTV and streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. You're most welcome. There are reports of renewed gunfight at Buabula, a suburb of Boko in the Upper East region. We go over to our Upper East regional correspondent, Peter Agony, to update us on the latest happenings in the area. Good afternoon, Peter.
Yeah, good afternoon.
What is the latest development?
Right. So, what happened yesterday seems not to be ending because the military and the people of Bazua area had that confrontation when they went there to arrest some suspects. But this morning, I understand that the military were at the highways in Boku, that particular area where the loading of vehicles are there. There's many Muhammad Kandu or tricycles are also there loading passengers. So that is where the military went there to clear them, ask them to vacate the place. And there was that resistance again. So that is what we heard this morning, that there was a gunshot in Boku. It was due to that the military asking people to vacate the area, that is the highways in Boku. And that resulted in some kind of agreement and struggling among the people.
Has more casualties been recorded?
To my understanding, no casualty at the moment has been recorded because at that time one woman was check shows that the woman was not really shot. She was running and fell, and they were taken to the Brigadier hospital, but she was really not shot by military.
Has there been more deployment of police and military personnel to curb the situation?
Yes, I understand that there are more security personnel, police, the military have been deployed to the town. And so the whole place, look, there are a lot of fear in the people, and they have almost deserted the place. Just like in the highway, that place is empty, and there are a lot of security personnel. The police, the military are coming to this area just to ensure that there is sanity at the place.
Thank you very much, Peter. I was speaking with our Upper East regional correspondent, Peter Agany, bringing us up to date on the renewed gunfights at Bari, suburb of Boko. Transport unions and drivers have expressed worry over the frequent increase in fuel prices. The commercial drivers are threatening to increase transport fares beyond the 15% agreed rate if the fuel prices continue to go up. At the negotiating table with the government recently, transport unions proposed a 30% increase in transport fares, but the government approved 15%.
Fuel na abana to so no wohwemu a eyesisi na osisi yan sanse wonim se wobeto so a enhwe mayento lorry fare so ansana asan betum biem. That means nya ye no bibia ama ho mfaso bia ama so enti media nra ye panyin ba ko bekasa wo TV so say send your ban na no etumi so sisi yen o my 15%, say 15% no was out to so foforo biemu a okay ye no so yanya nde nti ye hwe nanim say wenya asempa bi anka nkyere yan e besa to fair no so biemu.
Lolly fair amuti recently 50%, you want to fuel mu 3 times now. 3 times ni ye hu ni enye ye ho kyere papa ehuni enye wa blabo we mu, but any buafobia because abana o ka kura no ya no ye o ka no de atoa ko say that for so no ye ni buafobia ye ni kama phobia be kama yen ene ye na ma ye de tipempem etible na ye nyina ye bla ye go manu
fuwe no surprise no too much abanye bebe mfa won emaye because say obey juma the whole day and the day utofo e na scan nyina asa na say juma na wo ye no wonya mfa so Yaman for baby will be more and nimba. Because obey Juma, obey Cleo, if you say obey Juma, obey Juma, fashion Kofi, dear. And I say, would the 3 few crap or dia and I can fast also.
Are selling between 10 cedis and 12 cedis per litre, while LPG is trading between 9 cedis and 11 cedis per kilo. On GTV Breakfast, an energy expert, Mr. Kwame Jantua, asked players in the petroleum sector to pay attention to the fuel pricing window in the wake of the frequent increases in fuel prices.
Down between $97 and $100 from the 135. You ask me, why can't prices come down? It's because of the window. So the price for this window was priced at 140, 135, 140. Prices come down within this window, 97 to 100. We have to wait for the next window in April. So it still keeps prices
So
high.
the increase we're seeing in this window is as a result of increases in the window before this one?
Yes.
Right.
That's one of the challenges. So you ask yourself, should we continue the price windows? And if we don't continue the price windows, the OMCs would skyrocket it because there will be no control on how they skyrocket the prices. The window of 135, it went up to what, 8? No, it went up to 8 cedis something. It's gone. In fact, it wasn't 135, it was 110, and it went up to 8 something. Within the same window, the price also shot up, and then willy-nilly, the OMCs were also increasing their price, because remember, the OMCs and the BDCs, they have to buy the fuel, and a lot of the BDCs have to go to the banks for loans. The loans they are given are not dollar loans, they are cedis, so they have to change those cedis into dollars. If the cedi has depreciated, then it means they need more cedis to change to dollars to buy the fuel.
The president says road accidents must be treated as a global pandemic and assume equally a more proactive and responsible attitude to deal with it. President Kofi says increasingly the exposure of pedestrians and cyclists and exposure to risk of road traffic casualties in the urban areas can no longer be overlooked. He was speaking at the maiden Kofi Annan Road Safety Awards in Accra.
Road traffic crashes has not only maimed but sent hundreds of thousands of people to their graves prematurely across Africa. No exception in this tragedy, with over 200 people perishing in the first 2 months of 2022. Whilst alive, former UN Secretary General Mr. Kofi Annan led a campaign to promote road safety in Africa, to ensure that roads in Africa cease to be graveyards instead of becoming a catalyst for development, and to ensure that the flame lit by Mr. Annan keeps burning. An award ceremony has been instituted in his honor, and the maiden one held in Accra.
Almost 20 years ago, in 2003, Mr. Kofi Annan presented in his quality as the Secretary General of the United Nations his first report drawing attention to the major obstacle of road traffic crashes. He was among the first to recognize this carnage as a grave international development issue.
Mr. Annan once said, what governments and people don't realize is that sometimes the collective interest, the international interest, is also the national interest. Road safety is a collective interest. It is an international interest, and it is also a national interest.
President Kofi said the award ceremony has come at such an opportune time as countries are transitioning to a new decade of action for road safety.
My support for the institutionalization of this award ceremony comes from the fact that transportation in all its modes, and for that matter road safety, are bedrocks of national development. Indeed, Africa is the epicenter of global urbanization. The continent is undergoing rapid urban transition, with some 50% of her population expected to live in urban areas by 2030. Unfortunately, urbanization is often associated with increasing motorization and its attendant traffic fatalities and injuries. This situation calls for creative and proactive thinking in order to arrest the negative impacts of road transport. In Ghana, the government acknowledges that the current road safety situation is not satisfactory, but we remain committed to scaling up our investment in road safety initiatives and building partnerships that will help engineer improvements.
Africa's road fatalities per capita is the highest in the world, with WHO putting the number at 745 deaths per day. Some countries in Africa were honored for their contribution towards road safety on the continent. Edward Nyakum, reporting for GBC News.
On an inspection of dredging works on the in Accra, the Works and Housing Minister, Mr. Francis Asenso-Boakye, said Ghanaians must practice proper waste disposal and management, especially with reference to solid waste. He said reducing, reusing and recycling is the way to go to keep an environment free from filth. Our reporter Nyako Abronima Walker was with the team and has reported now in the studio with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
What did you observe?
Michelin, sorry, someone might be eating, but what I would say is what I saw was a salad of waste. In fact, a conference of filth, I'm telling you, which is, I mean, I was overwhelmed because things that we saw over there when we went there, it's different from what we saw last year, because last year we went there to see what was going on, and what we've seen here is too much. You know, there's an interceptor, which is broken down now. It is. So
everything just goes through.
Yeah, no, it's not going through it. It's not going through it, though it's broken down because it's supposed to get all the filth. I mean, solid waste
to segregate
out.
It.
Yes, but because it's broken down, it's not working now. So the filth has solidified to the extent that waste pickers, I mean, plastic waste pickers can walk over it and then pick. And it was very, very, very bad. So
what was the word of caution?
For now, the minister is asking Ghanaians to be responsible. There's no clear kind of form of caution, but maybe we'll rely on the bylaws, I mean, being implemented by the Greater Accra Regional Coordinating Council, which is which has brought out the operation Clean Your Frontage for people to realize that they should do something to our country, because how it's going now, I mean, it's bad when you see some of these things, because you ask as a nation, when you see these things, are we moving forward or going back? Because what we saw last year was better than what we have seen now. So it's kind of, people are still doing what we have asked them to stop doing.
Did they give timelines on when they will finish? Does it look like they will even finish, considering the picture you're painting?
The dredge masters are saying that they are ahead of time, though they've been given 3 months to finish with this particular work.
Thank you very much. We wait for your detailed report. I was speaking with my colleague Walker Abronima, who just returned from an inspection of the dredging works on the Kole Lagoon in Accra with the Works and Housing Minister, Mr. Francis Asenso-Boakye. You're watching News Hour live on GBC News channel. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has handed over a successful national reading radio program, NRRP, and its material aids to the Ministry of Education for onward distribution to related agencies. The Child-Centered Reading Radio Program, which is in English and Ghanaian languages, is an educational intervention instrument that a U.S. agency developed to fill a gap created by the lockdown restrictions of COVID-19. The official handing over of the program took place at the head office of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, which is a major partner in the program. The National Reading Radio Program, NRRP, was launched in 2020 as part of the Ghana Learning Radio Program, intended to mitigate learning loss that might result from school closures occasioned by requirement of the COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana. The Learning Radio program was broadcast nationwide on all GBC radio stations, local private radio stations, and community information centers. Statistics show that over the 18-month period, an average of 57% of the program beneficiaries, that is, pupils from kindergarten 2 to basic 4, moved up to higher English reading skills, which in effect means that instructional hours were actually not lost during the period.
Together, we set the goal to achieve higher reading achievement in English for levels B1 through B3, as well as in Ghanaian languages for KG2 through B4. The National Radio Reading Program made connections even while we were separated and apart during COVID. We connected with millions of children, families, and communities. At the end line of this program, an average of 57% of children moved up to a higher English reading level, despite the pandemic. It's significant as other countries, other students are falling behind. Here in Ghana, we had the ability for our students to move up.
With GBC being a major partner in this initiative, the Director General, Professor Amin Al-Hassan, pledged the corporation's continued support to ensure the continuity of the program.
Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, it is 6 years old now, has always had a mandate to do education through media. We started schools broadcast in 1952, and we were very delighted to have the opportunity to go back to our mandate that we were supposed to do. And for the service we rendered, for the participation, the collaboration we did with the Ministry of Education, we want to assure you that we are always available for further collaborations on anything to do with education through media.
The Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend Dr. John Ntim Fodwo, described the National Reading Radio program as a rewarding educational tool. He said the ministry would make it a permanent part of Ghana's educational system.
We are grateful to USAID for this partnership and grateful to GBC for the support given. And we would want to assure you that our agencies, Ghana Education Service, SENDLOS, and Ghana Library Authority are all very ready and excited to own this and to take it further. With the support of NTC and NASIA and NACA, we hope to be able to embrace this even into the repository of teaching and learning material and teaching apparatus that we currently have in our system, and to count on the continued support with USAID and GBC in this respect.
The National Reading Radio program was initiated by USAID in collaboration with partners including the Ministry of Education, Ghana Library Authority, Center for National Distance Learning and Open Schooling, the National Teaching Council, UNICEF and GBC to improve learning outcomes in Ghana. Russia's military campaign in Ukraine is intensifying. On Wednesday, Russian troops bombed a drama theater in Ukraine's southern city of Mariupol, where at least 1,000 civilians have been sheltering. About 400 staff and patients still remain trapped inside a hospital in the besieged city. The war in Ukraine has led to further increases in fuel prices in many countries, including Ghana. The Director of Academic Affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff, Dr. Vladimir Nchidanso, is on the line to help us in a conversation about the situation in Ukraine and its economic impact on countries like Ghana. Hello, good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon.
Some of us thought the Russian-Ukraine war would end soon with diplomatic talks, but it's rather getting worse. If you had the opportunity to talk to the leaders of Ukraine and Russia, what would you say?
Oh my God. Who am I to be talking to the Putins and the Zelensky's? And in any case, the point is that it is an absurd war. A war where security is the prime determinant. And then if I had a way to talk to Zelensky, I'll ask him to seek for peace. There's no way they're going to win this war. He has been deceived into thinking that NATO will come to aid. Unfortunately, where security is concerned, there's no way that NATO will come in because it will then start a third world war. Europe will have been the center of the theater. For the Russians, they've been warning since 1997. NATO's insecurity that has caused all this. And if it were Americans or Germans or any other country, they would have done the same. So Russia is defending sovereignty, its territorial, whatever it is, because of security concerns. So I'll tell Putin, well, you show that this is your concern. Can we put the guns down and help to bring about peace? The point is that diplomacy must be seen to be working.
We will come back to NATO, but before that, the latest increases in fuel prices in Ghana are attributed to the war in Ukraine. To what extent is that true, since prices were going up way before the war in Ukraine started?
That is very true. The war has exacerbated the situation. The sanctions and things like that make Russian oil not part of the main oil blocks in the market. If the other oil producing countries don't increase their daily output, then we're going to see increases in oil price all over. So it is very true that the war has exacerbated the situation. So, well, we're going to see oil increase. If it doesn't die down quickly and the sanctions don't go away, the predictions are that by the end of the year we'll hit about $200 a barrel. So it is very true that the oil to the war is blamed one way or the other for the exacerbation.
Is it possible for the government of Ghana or perhaps the public to find a way out of the fuel price hike or lessen the impact of it? Is it possible?
Of course, yes. When there is an economic pressure like this, the country finds a way of mitigating the effect. Either we cut down on several other things, either we pushing ourselves through some subsidies, whatever it is. So it depends on which way the government wants to go. But the Ghanaians must be made to understand that things are not going to be the same. I hear a lot of people talking as if nothing is happening. It's not only Ghana which is going to be affected. So our way of life will be changed.
Back to NATO. I mean, the explanation for refusing to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine as requested by the President Zelensky is that it would mean NATO forces would have to engage directly with Russian in skies and shoot at them if necessary. Why is NATO being so tactical?
It's not tactical. You need to understand what security is all about. NATO cannot declare a no-fly zone. Absolutely. They won't do it. So nobody should fool himself into thinking that NATO is being tactical. It's like something they can't do. If they do right now and one plane is shot, that is the third world war. They know it. So it's not a tactical flaw. It is something in security matters, in war situations, you don't entice your neighbor into a war situation. NATO is one of the, or it is a military organization which is not liked by Russia. Now, if NATO decides to come and help Ukraine, one person, one military person, officially, then NATO becomes an enemy. And when an enemy is trying to help another enemy, then both enemies are enemies. And Russia has every right in international law to attack NATO. And NATO knows this. That is why they haven't come in. The no-fly zone is a no-go area. They will never do it. Why has America not ordered it? They can't do it, my sister. Let us not live in a fool's paradise if we think, oh, why is Ukraine left alone? Russia is bad. No. They understand the war matrix. So they won't come.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. We are most grateful. I was speaking with the Director of Academic Affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Dr. Vladimir Ntwidanso. He was giving us his thoughts on the escalating military campaign in Ukraine by Russia. 24 poultry farmers from the Ashanti region who lost their birds to the outbreak of avian influenza between June and December last year have received their certificates of payment of compensation. The affected farmers are to receive 9 million Ghana cedis out of the total amount of 20 million Ghana cedis so far released by the government.
The Ashanti region became the hotspot of the pandemic, affecting as many as over 30 farmers. Thousands of birds were depopulated as a way of preventing the spread of the disease. One of the farmers, Mr. Augustine Menu, who lost about 5,000 birds, poultry feeds and eggs, spoke to GBC News.
How are they bad? A dozen, so amani amehunu yamfantu tuka enyesi yewi yeda nyamia sese yenye bia yasande akwa akwahye na aboy nyamia aboy ama eduma no so apagya akusi bebia ansana moyi ewu neba.
The regional veterinary officer, Dr. Marlon Mensah, was grateful for the compensation package to farmers. He, however, cautioned farmers to take biosecurity on their farms seriously, saying in the future it is only farmers who adhere to safety protocols on their farms shall be compensated in the event of an outbreak of bird flu.
We thank God everybody is happy, and we are advising them to observe the biosecurity that we are talking about. The government is saying that without their biometric registration and biosecurity certification, next time we will not mind them.
The Institute for Statistical, Social and Economic Research of the University its findings show an improvement in the livelihood empowerment against poverty program in Ghana.
Research funded by the World Food Programme and conducted by ISE, its findings were made public on Wednesday in Accra, and it showed some progress in the LEAP program. The two-day validation meeting was organized to share key findings of the research with stakeholders and to take inputs. It showed that the beneficiaries of the program confessed how it has improved their lives with regards to quality and quantity of food, business expansion, access to at least 2 square meals a day, among other things. The director of ISE, Professor Peter Quarty, explained further.
Let's make it better. Let's look at the challenges the system is facing. It's a good way of reaching out to the poor. Let's also ensure that whatever amount that is paid is regular and also that is able to meet at least their basic needs.
The program's director of the World Food Programme, Madame Emma Annan, said targeting women gives better opportunities of impacting them. By assessing financial inclusion of women on LEAP, the research also revealed that males' access levels to either bank and mobile money accounts are far stretched than their female counterparts. However, it again showed that some males had SIM cards without a phone. Generally, other beneficiaries did not know how to use the mobile money system and other electronic means such as the e-switch cards, which education was recommended to stem the challenge. Moreover, the card is not accepted in all financial transactions. Currently, there are about 1.5 million beneficiaries on the LEAP program. Some of the issues with the findings are in payment and exit plan for beneficiaries.
The rains will soon set in, and business owners and residents living close to the Nukbong Landfill Site in the Greater Accra region wants the government to close down the facility. There have been already several calls to the corridors of power about the serious health risk to them and threats to their businesses.
When GBC News visited the site, there were several tricycles and trucks struggling to climb the high refuse dump site. The Water and Sanitation Ministry in 2020 announced the closure of the Kpong engineered landfill site and its subsequent relocation to an old decommissioned dump site a few meters away from the engineered landfill site. Dekbung engineered landfill site was full to capacity and causing a lot of inconvenience to residents and businesses in the area. But the new temporary site still poses a threat as it is also full to capacity. From afar, the site is a mountain of refuse, even higher than the recently decommissioned engineered landfill site. Refuse carting trucks and tricycles, popularly known as abubuya, were busy at work, offloading their cargo of refuse. With the rainy season expected in April, May, and June this year, some residents are worried.
The dump site at the back is very, as you can see, it's very appalling. The smell alone when it rains is very bad, so I think government should help in curbing the situation.
Looking at the scent, water view, the bad thing, sometimes when it rains you can't even stand it. When it rains and the scent, it's very bad. So what I'm saying is the government can come in and really move this rubbish down from here to other side. It will do us very good. It's very bad. It's very bad. The scent alone is, it's giving us a lot of health issues and health problems.
When the wind blows very hard, we find it very difficult to even eat. Even when you are just passing by, it's really, really serious. The government should do something about it. Maybe we can recycle or something. We should just do something about it. If they can move it from here to another location, we'll be glad because this is so serious.
Very bad.
We can't sleep at night.
Close to the landfill site are shops and businesses. Owners who spoke on condition of anonymity complain about the inconvenience the landfill site poses to their businesses, especially the difficulties in dealing with smoke, fire, and the spreading of poisonous liquid into their water bodies from the site.
President Kofi has paid a glowing tribute to Ghana's first female general in the army, Brigadier General Constance Agony Apenu. In describing the passing of Brigadier General Constance Agony Apenu as a great loss to the nation and the family, the president pledged to join the family to mourn and bid her farewell at her funeral on March 25, 2022 at Bema Camp in Accra. Brigadier General Agony Apenu died on January 24, March 2022 after a short illness.
The lady we're talking about has gone to meet her maker. Very distinguished citizen. The first is one thing, but what you put into the first is really what matters. And she put a lot into it. Very well respected. I had a telephone call from Antonio Guterres on the news of her death to show you how respected she was in the global community, the Secretary General of the United Nations himself. She brought renown and claim to our country wherever she worked, at home as well as abroad. So her passing in this manner, I don't know, when you're 77, somebody who's 61 is a young person. And it's a matter of sadness.
segment, and I am Dorothy Ajiman. The Internal Audit Agency and the Center for Local Governance Advocacy have launched the National Public Financial Management League Table here in Accra. The league table will support institutions to comply with the public financial management laws of Ghana for improved accountability and transparency, comply and inject discipline among state institutions in the management of public funds. The compilation and implementation of the National Public Financial Management League Table is expected to improve domestic resource mobilization and utilization, accountability, and ensure value for money in public expenditure. Its objectives include to reduce corruption, assess, rate, rank, and publish PFM compliance level of state institutions. The board chair of the Internal Audit Agency, Mr. that democracy also means charging government with prudent financial management of the country, something Ghana has failed to do. The acting executive director, CLGA, Dr. Vladimir Ntwidanso, said the partnership between CLGA and IAA is a worthy contribution to the fight against financial complacence. Some disturbing development of persistent failure of SOEs to comply with reporting requirement under the PFM Act and failure to fully comply with the PFM Act by some public institutions are some reasons for the setup of the league table. The Director General, Internal Audit Agency, Dr. Eric Odrosai, explained how the PFMLT will be compiled with indicators along the 5 PFM cycle.
It is always difficult for us to know the extent to which institutions are fully complying with the PFM. Reporting cash irregularities, procurement irregularities, contract irregularities, and in certain cases in the MMDAs, abandoned projects and uncompleted projects are cited as irregularities. From our training as auditors and accountants, to the best of our knowledge, we could have done better in that regard. Because if the MMDAs did not receive the resources, how do we expect them to complete this project? We believe that this PFM league table will come in to streamline all of this and ensure that audits will be conducted along the 5 main PFM areas.
The Ministry of Finance has assured the IAA of its support to ensure that the Internal Auditors Bill is passed into law. The Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Mr. Dan Botri, said indicators for the league table must be clear, transparent and involve stakeholder consultation.
By our laws, we will have an audit report in each state assembly. And so if every quarter the head of the internal audit unit, you are supposed to prepare and submit a report, conduct of the financial affairs of the district assembly. And then after that, you have to submit it to the audit report implementation committee. Where are these reports? Who reads them? Who checks them?
Ghana will be the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to develop and implement public financial management league table. Ghana is lacing up her boots to keep up with the plan to build a circular economy and make Accra the cleanest city in West Africa by 2023. It plans to have 16 composite and recycling plants across the country to be operational by end of 2022. The Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Dr. Kofi Friye is urging management of the Accra composite and recycling plant to focus on the monetization of lightweight materials, also known as the under 20 microns, to encourage the collection of such wastes. The government is staying on course with the creation of circular economy. Infrastructure and policies in waste segregation and recycling is evidence that the quest to achieve a waste-free environment will not be compromised. The Accra Composite and Recycling Plant at Agony in Accra, which was formally opened by President Akufo-Addo in October 2021, is a partnership between government and the private sector to make the business of waste collection attractive and also to create direct and indirect jobs with its daily capacity of 2,000 tons. On a tour of the newly created facility led by the Environment Minister, Dr. Kofi Friye, in the company of the Chief Executive of the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA,
Mr. Henry Kokofu centered on dealing with light waste materials like polythene bags and heavy waste materials like plastics.
You know, this model that we are using for plastics is based on economic incentive. When you bring, they weigh it and they pay you. And that's why we've realized that the PET bottles, and then the sachet water, and then the under 20 microns, call it the flexible bags. And the one they use to wrap your banku or gankenke, you see that people are not inclined to pick them. But the ones that give even plastics a bad name, because as you go around, they even fly in the air, the least disturbance, atmospheric disturbance. So that is why we are looking for a model outside or complementary to the economic model.
The executive chairman of the Accra Composite and Recycling Plant, Mr. Joseph Siao Ejapon, commended governments for in waste management efforts across the country and pledged to explore more innovative ways to segregate and recycle all types of waste.
I humbly want to pledge our fullest support in dealing with this under 20 microns issue. Whatever the issue may be, Ghanaians, we are very capable of dealing with our own solutions and coming out of our problems. So we're very glad that we're going to collaborate with you during the research or the stakeholders meeting to be able to come out with solutions to deal with the issue.
Currently, waste recycled at the Accra Composite and Recycling Plant have been converted into household plastic products like chairs, bins and bowls, as well as fertilizer and raw materials for polythene production and export. Government is keen on investing in the facility as its prospects can boost its circular economy in the next 5 years.
The Deputy Commissioner for Policy Research and Programs at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Dr. Charles Adai, has said the widening of the tax net to include the informal sector is one area for revenue generation. According to him, Ghanaians can only appreciate the payment of taxes when taught at early stages in school. He was speaking at the 8th National Executive Council meeting for the Ghana Revenue Authority here in Accra.
What we don't have in Ghana now is tax education to people in schools. We are recommending and we are trying to bring that one to the educational system so that people will get to know from their initial stages in their education that taxation is not something that is illegal. It is a proper way of raising income to support the running of the economy that we have for all of us. The informal sector, on average, is covering almost about 60% of the economic activities that we have. But if you come to Ghana and we check how much we get from it, it's almost about something about 1% of the GDP that comes from that sector. I think it's not even less than that, 0.25 the last time that we computed it. So the challenge that we are getting with the informal sector is that Ghana trying to allocate people and identifying the businesses that they are doing so that they pay the tax is so challenging, so difficult.
You're still watching the business segment of News Hour. Let's have the performance of the local currency on the forex markets and the prices of gold, cocoa and light crude from the commodity board. You have more. Please do stay.